welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to go over, finally, I feel like it's really taken me a while to film this video for some reason, my favorite face brushes. I've already done my favorite eye brush video. I'll try to link it somewhere in a card up here or down below. If you haven't watched that, you can go ahead and see that, but I'm going to now go over my favorite face brushes. Now, I had to decide whether or not I wanted to include the one in my kit that are my favorite for all the components and categories that I'm going to talk about. And honestly, I went ahead and included them because I feel like my favorite face brushes for myself are ones that y'all have seen me use over and over and over and over again. So I feel like those are going to be kind of repetitive. So I wanted to include some other stuff, so I went ahead and brought in my favorites in my kit. So the easiest way I thought to do this was to go in order of application for the face. So I'm going to show you my favorite first for each category, and then I'll show you my favorite in my kit. I'm going to go really quickly because I have like almost 30 brushes right here. I know it's excessive, but I'm going to go quick. My favorite foundation brush, even though I don't choose to use foundation brushes that much on myself, is the Makeup Geek Face Buffer Brush. I feel like every time I do a foundation review or demo where I'm doing half with a sponge, half with a brush, I always use this one because I know it will never fail me. And if the foundation is going to work with a brush, it will work with this one. There's something about it. It's very dense, it's perfectly rounded. It's not too big, it's not too small. I love it. Now for my kit, I've already talked about this in my last, I think my April faves, but it's the Morphe E8. All of my kit brushes I'm going to talk about are going to be dirty because I had 3 clients yesterday and I have not cleaned them yet. But this is the Morphe E8 again, and it's just a very small, I think they market it as a contour brush, but I love to use it to place the foundation and really buff it in. A lot of times I don't even have to go over it with a sponge. If I do want to use the sponge, I will just use it as a last step because I love the application of foundation with this brush. Now, don't use a brush for concealer on me. The one I use on my clients I forgot to bring up, and it's just the Real Techniques Expert Face Concealer Brush. They have taken their Expert Face Brush and condensed it into a concealer brush, and I love using that one. So that's the one I use on my clients. But to set my concealer, I use the same one on myself and my clients. It's the Sephora Pro Crease number 10 brush. It's actually an eyeshadow brush. It's very, you can see the powder that I used this morning. It is very, it's summer, y'all, so you're going to hear my kids more and more while I film. If you want any kind of videos that, it's powder everywhere. My kids are probably going to be in the background somewhere. Anyways, this is it's a very loosely packed, fluffy eyeshadow brush that is the perfect size to apply powder under your eyes. I don't like anything too dense because then it moves the concealer around. So this is my favorite for powder under the eyes. Now for powder, wow, I have 4 powder brushes. I think we all know my absolute favorite is the La Mer brush, the excessively ridiculous bougie La Mer brush. There are so many other options that work perfectly fine, but if you want to be very luxury and splurge on something that is soft and will never fail you in the powder department, it's going to be this La Mer brush. Now, for backup brushes, if I'm just feeling something different that day, I will go with my Old Faithful. This was my favorite before I got the La Mer brush, and it's the It Brushes for Ulta Velvet Luxe Plush Powder number 313 brush. So it is like this. It honestly was not shaped like this when I got it. It kind of shaped itself like that over time, and I think it's because when I put on powder, I press it on versus sweeping it because I don't want to mess up the foundation underneath. So I think it's just so used to being pressed onto my face that it just automatically takes that shape. But it's super soft, and again, it works well with loose powders, pressed powders. It has never failed me, and again, this was my favorite before the La Mer brush, so I will always have that in my arsenal. And then this is the newest brush in my collection for powder, and I don't know, I really like it. It's the MAC 140S brush, and it came out with their Next to Nothing collection, and it's just a flat, very loosely packed, fluffy, almost fluffy paddle brush. So it's great for pressed powders if you want to put it in the pan and pick a little bit up and then just honestly pat it literally on your face. It really does work well with that. I do like it with the Next to Nothing powder, which I will be talking about in my favorites. And really I prefer this with pressed powders just because of the shape. It's so much easier to get in the pan and pick up the product. Now for my kit, this is honestly my favorite powder brush ever because it lays on the least amount of powder possible while still setting your makeup effectively. And when I work on clients who have varying skin types, I do not want to put a lot of powder on them, even if they're super oily. I like to combat that. Brush. So it's this super fluffy, I mean, there's nothing dense about this brush. And it is at an angle, so it is also good for bronzer, which I do use it for as well. It's one of those multi-function brushes where I can use, like, honestly, I can use it for blush too, and I can use this one brush for the majority of the face makeup on a client and make it very fast and effective. But because it's so fluffy, it just lays down just what you need. It will not overpowder. It really is an amazing brush. So if you have dry skin and you're just a consumer and not an artist, I would still pick this up. If you were an artist, I would most definitely pick this up. So it kind of went out of order, but cream contour brushes I'll talk about really quickly. My favorite for myself, which is probably no surprise because I use it in every single tutorial I do, is the IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe Complexion Perfection All Over No. 7 brush. If they are known for anything, it's their long names. So it is a double-ended brush. I never use this side, but this side is absolute perfection for liquid bronzer, cream contour. It does not matter. If you want to contour, I would lay it on its side so it's a little bit more precise. But a bronzer, I just use the fluffy end, and I just honestly just pat the bronzer in and it will airbrush it out. It's perfect. Now for my kit, I have two favorite ones. One is the Real Techniques contour brush. The writing is completely off of this. Again, dirty. This one is not dirty. I don't know why I didn't use this yesterday. This is the MAC 130 brush. So both of these are perfect for blending out any type of cream contour, cream bronzer, anything on a client's face. They're small enough to, even if they have a very small face, you're not going to put the product outside of where you want the product to be. For instance, if they do have a very small face and you go in with this to blend out their cream contour, it's not going to end up on their cheeks or down on their jawline. So I really appreciate the size of these, and the functionality of them are amazing. So those are my two favorite for my kit. Now going into powder bronzer. I really only have one favorite, and I do use this one for bronzer too, but I really only have one favorite for my kit, and it's the Real Techniques Multitask brush. Now this is another one of those multitask brushes where I can use this for bronzer, I can use it for powder, I can use it for blush, I can even taper it like that and use it for highlight. It really is the best multitask brush. These Real Technique brushes stand up to the most intense washing. I mean, there are sometimes I wash these brushes in my kit 5 times a week, and they never have broken down on me. They don't shed. They are just honestly the most affordable, most efficient, most versatile brushes that I think anyone can have. I have not come across one that I don't like, and I own quite a few. But this is my favorite powder or bronzer brush for my kit because you can, like I said, taper it if you want to get a little bit more precise, but then it also is just the perfect size. Now, I think we all know my favorite bronzer brush. Again, we're getting into the bougie category, but this is the Tom Ford bronzer brush. Honestly, the most money I have ever spent on a brush, and I never have regretted it since the day I used this on my face. I used it today. I don't know, it does like wonders for your bronzer. It honestly puts it on for you. It blends it out for you. It's just perfect. It never puts it where I don't want it. My bronzer always looks good with this. Now, if I'm using something like way pigmented, like the Hourglass Luminous Bronze Light, where I just feel like if I use something like this, I'm going to get way too much bronzer on my face, I will go in with the Morphe M527 brush, and it's way fluffier than the Tom Ford. It's not quite as big, and so I just feel like it diffuses a very, very, very pigmented bronzer a little bit better than the Tom Ford. I don't have, really, the Hourglass one's the only one I use this for, but it does do wonders for that, and it's a very, very, very affordable option if you can't afford the Tom Ford brush. Now finally for bronzer, if I have one that is not so pigmented, like my Bare Minerals Invisible Bronze or my Tom Ford Ultimate Bronzer, I will use this because it's more densely packed. It's not as fluffy and it's smaller, so I can really buff what I want in and get a little bit more pigment out of it. It's the Zoeva 126 Luxe Cheek Finish Brush. Now, I think this can be used for anything. I mean, it would be a great blush brush, but I prefer it for bronzer. Again, it just really gets in there. I can really press it down on my forehead and go to town with bronzer and get the most pigmentation out of that product. So this is the one I like to use on ones that aren't as pigmented. Very quickly on a cream blush, this is only for my kit. I've already talked about it in my last video. It's the Morphe E8. It is dirty from yesterday and it's perfection for cream blush. Again, in my last video, I talked all about cream blush and I go over that more. Now for contour powder, these brushes are so nasty dirty. They've been in my cup and they've gotten like foundation on them. I'm going to clean them right after this video. For contour, this has become my all-time favorite contour brush. I will clean it in between clients and use it on every single person. In fact, I really need to invest on more so it can save me time. But it's the Elena Boudreau contour brush. It is a small version of a blush brush, and it's a little bit fluffier up here at the top, but it's so densely packed. If you can notice, all my pigment is down there on the bottom. It's so densely packed down here that I will just pick up the contour powder on the bottom and put it kind of on its side and just honestly press it in like that, tap it in like that, and it is so perfect. And because I only put the pigment on that side, once I've applied the contour powder, I'll kind of put it right here and I'll blend it out. Honestly, the best contour brush I have ever owned. So I really, really, really need to order more of those. All right, we're getting in the home stretch. We got blush and highlight. I've got one random. This is my favorite duo fiber brush to use for finishing, and we've all seen it. It's the IT Cosmetics Brushes for Ulta Blurring Powder Brush. Now, this came in a set. I don't think you can get it individually. I will try to find the set and link it below. But there's just something about the size of this and the density of it to where it doesn't... A lot of duo fiber brushes, when you press down on it, they just kind of splay out. And they just, I don't know, they just don't seem very efficient or effective to me. This one is dense enough to where it doesn't do that. And I just adore it. For my kit, I have very, 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 very many, very various brands of duo fiber. Real Techniques makes some great duo fiber brushes. I have a lot of those in my kit. Now, blush brushes. This one is so beat up, honestly. Oh my goodness. But this is the one I use in the majority of my videos. It is, again, the IT Brushes for Ulta, and it's the Soft Touch Blush Brush. I think it came in the same set as this. Again, I will try to find it. But it is just, I mean, picks up, pats on, done. Blends it out for you. Nothing is needed. It puts on just the right amount of product. I love it. Now, if I do have a blush that's not quite as pigmented, same along the lines with the bronzer, I'll go in with a more densely packed brush, and this is the Morphe E8 brush. I like to use this with my Hourglass blushes. I think that it picks up and puts on the product perfectly with those, and I also like to use it with my Charlotte Tilbury blushes. I think that I use this in that Charlotte Tilbury video I put up on Monday. I'm pretty sure this is the brush that I used. And it's just, I don't know, it's dense enough to where it picks up that product perfectly. And I really do like the size because you cannot go wrong with the blush. It's not going to go anywhere but where you want it to go on the cheek because of how small it is. Now in my kit, I have a lot of random blush brushes, but I do have a few of these and I find that I reach for it the most. It's the Morphe M530. It, again, I believe is supposed to be a contour brush. It's just a domed brush, but it really, I would like to kind of swish on the blush with this. So I'll start at my cheeks and kind of swish it up. I like this with the Chanel blushes. I like it with Marc Jacobs blushes, and it works really well with MAC and Tarte, which is the majority of what I have in my kit. Now, highlighting. Finally, I'm going to talk real quick about these two because I believe I touched on them in my top 5 favorite highlighters video. But this is the Anastasia A23. Just perfect. Honestly, I mean, you can do no wrong with this brush. And again, for highlighters that maybe don't have as much pigment, I want a little bit more of a denser brush, is the Makeup Forever 140 Wavy brush. This I love with my Jouer Citrine. I love it with my NARS highlighters. I love it with my Dior highlighter. There's something about the way this works with certain highlighters that just really makes it perfect, and it's the perfect size. Now for my kit, another Delium Tools. This is the 960 brush. I also like the Makeup Forever, I believe it's 180 or something. It's their foundation brush. It's the same size as this, but this one is a little bit looser in bristles. And honestly, I pick up the highlighter and then it just lays so perfect. Just pat it right there on the cheekbones, pat it on the Cupid's bow. It can even fit under the brow if you want it to. It's just really affordable and really multifunction and perfect for highlighting. So again, Delium Tools 960. And finally, my all-time favorite tool for foundation, for blending, for taking down pigment, for pressing in Fix Plus, for using powders on really oily skin is a damp sponge. My all-time favorite damp sponge in general, is the Beauty Junkies Contour Sponge. This is so disgustingly dirty, but you get it. I actually cleaned it right before I used it this morning, but this is still what it looks like. Honestly, better than any of the colors of beauty blenders that I've tried. It holds up better. I feel like the beauty blenders that I've tried lately fall apart in no time. And you get a 4-pack for like $13 on Amazon. It's all I carry in my kit. I do have a few Real Technique sponges, but I still prefer these. There's just something really magical about them. Love them, so affordable. So I will try my best to link every single brush that I talked about down in the description bar. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them for me in the comment section. And give me a thumbs up if you enjoy this type of video. Subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss out on any future videos. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed watching. And as always, have a very blessed day.